Good evening. Level of performance, style, entertainment, or results? What matters to you the most when you watch Notts County? It's a question we've put out earlier today, and it certainly sparked a big debate among our fraternity. A 1-1 draw with 10-man Halifax had head coach Ian Burchinall praising performance levels of his players. He says he looks at points per game ratio rather than the league table primarily at the moment. We're eighth. Now 2 trips on the road to Woking and Chesterfield coming up. So where are we, in your view, in the grand scheme of the National League promotion picture? With me to dissect, distill and deliver a few pearls of wisdom, Mark Stallard. Mark, good to have you on board again.
Evening. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a bit of a lively one tonight.
Yeah, could be. Yeah,
an awful lot on social media. As always, rules of the house: be respectful. Yeah, put your point constructively, and try to be as least anonymous as you can be. I know 1 or 2 of you have your little nom de plumes on here, but we don't like them very much. We like people to be able to justify their comments under the name that they were given at birth. Be proud of them. Also news tonight of how you can win a place to watch Notts on the training ground, courtesy of our podcast and my son's charity walk to Chesterfield on Tuesday night. He's going 28 miles, assuming he doesn't get lost and the GPS works properly. He'll be leaving Meadow Lane, walking around the pitch, thanks to the club, about 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning, planning to get to Chesterfield round about 5-ish, and will no doubt then be in the KFC, McDonald's or whatever, because it's quite handily placed. If you're going to do a sponsored walk and end up somewhere around Chesterfield, it's quite good, so you can refuel. And what we're saying is anyone that donates £5 or more, the Just Giving link is on the bottom there. It's also on our message board. Anyone who donates £5 or more automatically goes into a draw. We sponsored several players, as you know, and we get some options to have some people to go along and watch training session, hear from Ian, some of the players. So we're making 1 place of our spots available, either the end of March or mid-April, and you can go along if you're the lucky winner and see Notts County in action on the training ground and get a bit of a brief presentation from Ian and meet some of the lads. Crikey! They're pouring in your thoughts and observations. I just want to start by it's a sad note, paying tribute to a friend of mine, used to line up alongside him in centre of midfield for Gedling United, Darren Xavier. Daz, who many of you will know, was a big Notts County fan. He sadly passed away earlier this week at the age of 49 years old. Came as a big shock to me, and I know to many of you. I saw a large representation from his family in the Pavis stand last night, paying tribute to come down, where Darren enjoyed many happy hours. So my condolences. And I'm sure all of the Notts County flock and family for the passing of Darren. The Xavier family, many of you will know, are a big, big sporting family and a community in their own right in Nottingham. So my condolences to the family and rest in peace, Darren. Okay. So, I suppose it's a bit emotive. Level of performance, style, entertainment, results. You come in from a business end, I guess, as an ex-pro. What do you look for? What's the? And I know that things are linked, yeah.
Yeah.
But what's it about for you when you go and watch Notts?
It's bottom line's results. You know, let's if you want the very quick answer, bottom line is results. That's what gets you success. That's what gets you up the leagues. Get more back in the league is what we want. Bottom line is results. But in an ideal world, you want performances that lead to results, and you know that's the sort of utopia. You want a good style of play. You want to watch attacking football. That's been the remit, not just at Notts, but I think that's the remit of every football fan, isn't it? You know, they want to watch good football, but they want to watch winning football. And the two aren't mutually exclusive, and the two don't necessarily correlate. I think at the minute, Notts are, you could say, falling into the camp of putting on really good performances and not necessarily winning enough games. So they've got to find a way of turning them good performance into results. Last night was an absolute case in point in terms of performance. Again, it was excellent performance in terms of good to watch, attacking, creating opportunities, hit the post, hit the bar, all the usual sort of things. Couple of penalty shouts, couple of golden opportunities spurned, and one good goal, but ultimately 1 point at home, not enough against a tough team, but a team that was down to 10 men. So you ask me personally, what do I want? I want to see Notts win. If they win ugly 1-0 and we get into League Two next season, I'll take 44 ugly, horrible games, but back in the league. But again, it comes down to, you've got to have a style of play, you've got a way of playing that the way they play is the style is the best style that Ian Birchnell sees fit for Notts to get the result. It's not just playing for playing's sake. It's a style of play that should get results. At this moment in time, it's not getting the results that the level of performance deserves. But then the other side of that coin is you have to be ruthless in both boxes. And we've spoken about this many times before about, all the bits between the two boxes is window dressing. It's the fluff. It's what happens in both penalty areas that decide football matches more often than not. And, whilst not far away, not quite ruthless enough in both penalty areas to really push them to where they want to be at the moment.
So would you say we've got, as it stands, because we have moved to a 4 at the back from a 3, have we got the right blend, in your opinion, at the minute, to 1, get automatic, or 2, get the playoffs?
Simple answer 1, no. For automatic, I think we've dropped too many points at this stage. You look at all the stats, you look at the league table for first and foremost, but you look at all the stats at this moment in time. I think it's not a million miles away. I'm not saying there's any disaster. There certainly isn't. But for automatic, we've dropped too many points. We've not won games we should have won. We haven't had that ruthless killer instinct like last night. But again, you could say the reverse fixture at Halifax, which tried to promise myself I'll never talk about as if I can help it. But there's other games. There's other games where points have slipped away. Of course, you get the other side of it where we might not have played so well, and then you end up nicking a result which can mask a performance that wasn't so good. But there's not been too many of them. But there has been a few games where I think we've played better and not got what we deserved. And I don't mean just playing better in terms of, we dominated possession. I mean better in terms of the chances that are created, the balls in the opponent's box that are causing problems. And is our conversion rate, in the attacking sense, is it high enough for the amount of times the passing? I mean, last night was just like laying siege to a goal for best part of 90 minutes, and we had 1 goal to show for it. Despite near misses, despite the woodwork being hit, despite good opportunities, we didn't put them to the sword, and we will be made to pay for that. Do I think we're at this moment in time got the blend for the playoffs? Absolutely, yeah. I don't doubt that at all.
Very good. Ian Birchnell says Stell would have scored 2 hat-tricks last night.
From 20 years ago, maybe. But honestly, I was salivating at some of the balls, and Adam Chickson last night.
Yeah.
Cal Roberts on Saturday got some great praise and the quality of his delivery was awesome at times. Last night, Adam Chickson put 2 or 3 balls in from the left-hand side, particularly in that second half, where it was just sitting up and begging to be put in the back of the net. And credit to Halifax, they defended manfully, physically, robustly. right on the line at times, and I'm sure the referee might get a mention. But we couldn't finish it off, and I think if you're talking about top spot, which we are in this division,
yeah,
you've got to win that game last night. I think Charlie said it on the radio. Whoever wins this league wins them games more often than not. They win them sort of games last night, and over 44 games of a season, we've already had slip-ups, and we've already had games that we should have won, and games where we really play well, like last night, and don't get 3 points. And they will catch up with you at the end of the season when you're going for that one spot. Stockport, we don't know how they're playing, but they're getting results. It doesn't matter how they're playing. They're getting results, and they were the big winners last night, weren't they? With all the results that went on, they didn't play, and the table looks even better for them today.
So on the kind of level of performance, style, entertainment, results debate, Gary Wardle, we clearly can't have both. It's results for me. Paul Hawksworth, results full stop. John Parr, football is a results business. Good football and good performances don't guarantee 3 points. Gary Wardle, we have said since early season, plenty of games and points, but they are running out. Kane Porter has to be results. Gary Wardle, now the home form is being tested, it's being found out. Nigel Cameron, totally agree with Stell, it's a results business. Mark Weiler, 3 points. Plenty more coming in. Chris Gosling, everything is near perfect apart from scoring a simple goal. We seem to only be able to score ones for the show reel. Let's just look at the comments at the start of the show. Pythragon has mentioned this before. Evening all, is Eli the hardest striker of a ball since Rashid Harkouk? I would say no. I think Rashid is possibly you're probably too young for Rashid. As Martin O'Neill famously once said to me, and I told Rash this and he loved it. Martin O'Neill said to me, because he was obviously played for Notts with Rash, he said that Rashid Harkouk was the most naturally gifted striker of a ball he had ever played with. And that is some consideration when he lined up with the likes of John Robertson. Do you remember Rashid Harkouk, Stell, or are you too young?
I remember the name, and I possibly saw clips of him, but I remember the name, but he was a bit before my time.
Well, all you need to know is that was a brilliant goal from Eli last night, wasn't it? But no, he ain't in the same league as striking a ball as Eli, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But quality goal from he got. There didn't seem to be a lot of backlift, did there? And he got really fizzed.
Yeah, it was a great strike. I'd like to see Eli do it 10 or 15 more times this season, preferably, before we call him a great striker of a ball. But yeah, it was a great strike last night, and he he's somebody that's really come from nowhere, hasn't he? Really, let's be honest, he's come from out in the dark, out in the cold, and got a chance and has really grabbed it. Really grabbed it at this moment in time, and that's exactly what we need. We need players to be doing that. That I call it the front four, if you like, of him, Ruben, Cal, and Kyle Wootton. There's things there that will worry all the opposition. All the opponent teams will go, well, we can't focus on one or the other because all of them offer a threat. And like I say, it amazes me that we only scored one goal last night. When you think of players that we're talking about, players that are in form at this moment in time as well. Should be high on confidence as well. Yeah. I think we'll drive ourselves nuts trying to fathom last night's game and make logic of it.
A counterpoint, David Shorter, scoring goals is not the problem. Another defensive error cost us a game last night. Teams that go up keep clean sheets and make one goal scored count. Paul Hawksworth is clearly in disagreement. Wow, David, that's a statement and a half after what I've been watching. And I think, to be fair to David, it's a drum I've beat quite a bit. And I know me and you would come from the goal scoring union style. But I do think it's worth pointing out, and I'm not counting trophy and cup. I think it's, did we say 2 in 10 or 2 in 12?
2 in 12 clean sheets, yeah.
Nah, that ain't a title, irrespective of goals being scored, that ain't a title winning team, 2 clean sheets in 12. Let's just focus back for a brief moment on the goal last night. Hey, clearly no goals are good to concede, but it was preventable on at least two fronts, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, terrible goal to concede. You've got to question the goalkeeper. Unfortunately, decision making looked a bit hesitant. But again, you can stop it at source. You can track your runner, things like that. But it was a poor goal to concede. And again, it goes into look, I'm not in this thing where it's not, the two things aren't mutually exclusive. I think we've got to be more ruthless attacking and we've got to be more ruthless defensively, i.e. both boxers. You're absolutely right. The more clean sheets we get, the better chance we give ourselves. But I mean, it was a poor goal to concede. Let's be honest. And that's happened too often this season. Teams haven't had to work hard. Ian Birch will agree with this, I'm sure. Teams haven't had to work hard enough to get their goals against Notts, and that is a problem.
What do you make of the goalkeeping debate? That's polarised a lot of views this year. Sam Slocum is out twiddling his thumbs. Clearly, Patterson was a large number of people's favourite through COVID situation at Sunderland. He's gone back. He ain't coming back. What do you reckon?
What's happened
Keep
there?
going. We'll try and get the video back.
Okay. What do I think? I think, well, Patterson came in and did really well again. He's the modern day goalkeeper, really, in terms of.
Oh dear, we seem to be having a few problems with Mr. Stallard. We will be trying to get him back very shortly. It says device not connected. Let's hope we can connect up pretty shortly. And let's get a few more comments while we try and get Mark back. Chris Gosling says, evening all, still struggling to see how we didn't win that game. We need a one chance, one goal striker in our ranks. A massive change of opinion for me, that is two. Paul Hawksworth, the most frustrated I can remember feeling the last two games. When did football stop being about scoring goals? Shane Walker, who isn't feeling frustrated? Ian Birchnell, sorry, David, disagree. Yes, it was an error, but we will get them at this level. We created enough chances to win several games. What else have we got? Gary Wardle, as much as Halifax fought, we should be fighting too to get on the end of the balls. The title is gone. What else have we got? Chris Gosling says Ed Francis' hesitation didn't help Yaros. We were just talking with Stell there about how it was kind of mistakes on two fronts that contributed to that goal. Although I guess the focus was on the goalkeeper rather than the mistake that led to the opportunity in the first place. The big picture people, that's a new one. Please sort out corners and dead balls. We squander them on such a regular basis. It drives me to distraction. Chris Gosling, there's 4 or 5 strikers in this division who would score a hatful of goals in this team. Peter Minkley, he's a new one. I remember Peter from years ago when I was doing my book, When You See the Goal, Shoot. Well, we did have 29 or 30 attempts on target, I believe, last night. So I suppose we did shoot. Whether they were on target is another matter. And to be fair, I thought the Halifax keeper had a good game last night. I thought he played particularly well. Mark Weiler, for one game, can we get to the byline and just put it over? We got Big Sam and Wootton. The big picture people, has anyone else noticed that 2 games on the trot where the opposition has not had a corner? Is that right? The last 2 games, no one's had a corner. Look, I'm sure you're right. Nigel Cameron, Richardson had a couple of chances to shoot early in the first half, cutting in from the right, but on both occasions he went to the byline and crossed the ball. I think we also remember there was an early chance for Zayden, wasn't there, when he was right in the middle of the goal and it sort of took it a little bit wide. Right. Well, firstly, well done, audience. Well done, the flock, because you chirped in there with a lot of observations that enabled me to keep going, Stal, while we were. It was saying you were not connected. Bit like sometimes our defence and our front line.
Yeah, sounds like me regularly not connected. Yeah, obviously restart it, switch it off and on again. That's all I know about technology.
Yeah,
So yeah,
we were
sorry
talking
about that.
before we were rudely interrupted. Goalkeepers.
Mm.
So clearly, the lad from Liverpool via St Pat's comes very highly recommended. He's obviously played men's football in Ireland. Yeah, so this is not someone that is 18, 19, not used to the men's game. Where are you on this debate? Would you be looking at bringing Sam back yet, or do you stick with the current keeper?
I would stick with him just because he's made one sort of rip last night. There's another one where he looked a bit hesitant as well, ball over the top in the second half. But I don't think you can go into this, make a mistake, you're out. I think you've got to give him a few games. He looks, decent enough with the ball at his feet. And truth be told, Paul, he's not had a save to make hardly.
That is true, yeah.
He's hardly had a save to make in the 3 games, whatever it is, he's been there, because we've been so dominant with the ball.
Yeah.
He's not really been tested. So, okay, one mistake last night, look, there's competition, of course, but I wouldn't be looking to change him. I don't think you can have if you have players on one mistake and you're out, you become very similar to what we've had with the England cricket team over years, whereby the absolute pressure on to not make. Of course, we don't want anyone to make mistakes, but if it's one mistake you're out, then you've got players coming to the team treading on eggshells a little bit, and you don't want that. You want players confident and thinking. So I think he's got to be given, 2 or 3 more games to really assess where he's at. And Ian Birchall's obviously made that decision. He's brought him in to be his number one.
Another kind of hot topic, and I don't want to personalise this, but if we're looking at an overall blend of football and a package that gets you top spot, gets you in the playoffs, set pieces. And I guess inevitably, by Knotz's decision to appoint a specialist set piece coach, and restart coach was the actual title, but there was particular focus in the job description on set pieces. I think we're the only club with a set piece coach in this division. So as such, the bar is automatically raised a little higher, isn't it? Because you've got one as opposed to not having one. Mm-hmm. What's your take on any improvement or weakness, or how do you think we shape up at set pieces? Because there are certain managers, and I would welcome your views if you think back to when you played under various managers, whether some managers were extremely formulaic and told you exactly what to do at every corner and you had to do it, or others perhaps left you to express yourself. What's your take on where Notts are now in this kind of set piece picture? Let's focus on scoring first, and also defensively.
Right. Yeah. Well, attacking, I think, is a bit of an easier one to look at. I think we've got good variation. We try to vary it up. We don't do the same thing time and time again in terms of set pieces. Of course, you can say, do we convert enough? Do we score enough from set pieces? And you can always want more. But again, you've got a team defending for their lives against you. It's not easy, no matter whether you've got a specialist coach or not. So difficult. I do see us varying it up. I don't just see a case of, well, we put one to the near post or one to the far post and that's it as far as set pieces go. So I would like to see us score 1 or 2 more from set pieces. I think we've got the height, the size in the team as well, and we've got the quality of delivery. So you always want more from that respect. I think defensively is the area I think everybody would put the question mark on from set pieces, and we're not just talking corners, throw-ins, it's free kicks as well. And you know that is a particular sort of Achilles heel, or it has been for Notts this season. Now, do I see an improvement in it? Well, it's not been as bad, over the last 10, 12 games maybe, as it was for the first part of the season. But I don't think anybody could hand on heart say we have been night and day difference between where we were to where we are. I think we're better, but any gains would be marginal, absolutely marginal.
Let's talk about you as a striker and the managers you played under. So give us a professional footballer's insight to corners. Were you given specific instructions? Were there specific routines? How was it throughout your career? What sort of variance was there?
Well, the variance comes from different managers and what they want and what onus they put on. Defensively, if you're talking defensively from say corners, then they're pretty rigid. What you do is pretty rigid. You're given a position or a man to mark, wherever that may be, and you're told pretty much what is expected of you. So a lot of the time, maybe in my career, I always found myself as the first man near post. I was always delighted to just be 5'11.5" because I never, not 6 foot. You're not expected to be a good header of the ball. So I got the near post job quite a bit, whereby if they've got somebody who wants to take you out short, you've got to be in front of him. You've got to stop the short corner, but be far enough back that they can't just dink it over your head for a near post flick. Things like that. But the game has changed and the setup has changed so much. But players will be absolutely given roles to do, certainly defensively. I think there's more leeway and a little bit of rope to hang yourself, if you like, in terms of an attacking sense, because you've got to lose your defender. You've got to find space for whatever routine it is that's being done. So it depends how the defender marks you. A defender like last night is all over you, grabbing your shirt. You've got to find a different way of getting rid of him as if somebody marks sort of zonally on you. So you've got a bit more scope for doing your own thing usually when you're attacking. But defensively, it's usually pretty regimented of what you do, and everybody knows the job and knows what's expected of them, whether that's zonal or whether it's man-to-man or a combination of both.
Yeah, I mean, look, anecdotally, in individual examples, there were a couple against Grimsby that certainly, to me, irked me as an individual. Never played pro like you, but irked me. One was Grimsby's winning goal, where the cross has gone to the back post. Waterfall has nodded it down, and it was Kel Roberts who was marking him. And Kel appeared to have a right go at the bench after the goal. Yeah. And clear here is, let's be honest, Kel has many strengths. Respectfully, heading the ball ain't one of them. Certainly against someone who would be out and out recognised, as a danger. That was one. And the second one that annoyed me was, if you remember, it's got to something like the 96th minute. We've got a corner, and our keeper starts to run up. He's only got about as far as the halfway line, and it's about the last kick of the match. Yeah, we take a short corner, and with the ball that then comes in, it's no good, and the referee blows for full time. Now, maybe that's individual. I don't know what you call it players, but to me, on the face of it, both of those are pretty poor decision making. Yeah. And I may have got it totally wrong just as a layman, but for me, both of those are pretty poor, and kind of it invites a bit of pressure when you have a set piece coach that in theory you're supposed to be better than most of the other clubs because of that resource.
Yeah, well, I remember the Grimsby goal. Now I was struggling, but I do remember it now. And I did have a look at that again after the game, and there could be a number of things in that. And you're right in identifying it. I think it was Cal Roberts at the back post for Waterfall's header, which is a complete mismatch. But I think there's 2 or 3 errors that could have led up to that. And I don't want to lay blame, because I absolutely
no. We're just talking out aloud.
And it's not about blame, but it is yeah, we got found out there. And part of the reason is, if you look back at that goal, if I remember correctly, and there's every chance that I don't, but the wall, we had a 4-man wall for the free kick. It was a free kick down to, and 3 of the men in the wall, I think, were Kyle Cameron, Kyle Wootton, and another. It might be an Alex Lake.
Big lads.
I don't know. Yeah, 3 big lads, which in itself isn't unusual if you've got if you're expecting a shot coming in, you tend to have at least a couple of big lads in the wall. But from there, that's the goalkeeper's call. The goalkeeper always dictates what wall he wants for any given free kick around the box or anything like that. So he would have called 4. He wanted a 4-man wall, whatever it was, and the 4 men for a 4-man wall will be no. That is the 4-man wall. But to me, if you're having a 4-man wall, you're defending a shot. Now Grimsby have obviously chipped it up to the far post. Waterfall's headed it back, and they've scored. And you're left with egg on your face because you've got a lot of big men in the wall, and you've got Cal Roberts challenging one of their big centre halves for the header that leads to their goal, and that leaves you wide open. Again, is that a misjudgment by the goalie by having a 4-man, or is there something else that says we have a 4-man wall if we think it's a shot, we have a different 4-man wall if we think they're likely going to float it to the far post? Should he have had 4 men in the wall? It's a judgment call. And again, you said the exact right word, Paul, decision making. Just like the other corner, you said in the 96th minute, whatever it is, the player that's taking the corner has got a decision to make. Does he wait for the keeper to come up and we're all just going to lump it in the box and do that? And something happens it can be the excitement of the game, it could be whatever, they decide to take a short corner. But I talk about it quite a lot about football is all about them decisions. Decisions that the keeper makes, how many men he wants in his wall from the position of the free kick, who he wants in that wall, and there's a decision for players to make on the hoof, if you like, in terms of, yes, it'll be dictated who's in a wall, but are you looking at it and going, well, actually, I'm needed at the back post here. So do you know what? We might sacrifice 4 inches of height in the wall, but you can get on your toes and have a jump or whatever you want to do. I'm going to the back post because they've got big men up there. Sometimes, like I say, you've got a structure and it's regimented, but you've still got decisions to make within a game of football.
Interesting. Okay. Another area, and it's been debated fairly extensively by 2 of our friendly jousters, Chris Gosling and Gary Wardle, who ever present, and they clock up a lot of messages. And there is a view. People talk quite easily of, we're playing brilliant football, we've had a load of shots. All it is just a case of scoring a few more goals and we'll easily win 5-1. But, and I guess why you had such a successful career in the game, let's be honest, scoring a goal is the hardest part. It's the hardest job of the lot. It's why normally the best players in the world are goal scorers. It's why ordinarily strikers get more money than midfielders and centre halves. I'm sure that was the case for you, Stell, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I got 2 quid.
Question: Do we oversimplify it sometimes by saying everything in the garden is rosy? It's brilliant. We've created 20 shots. We have 82% possession every ready game. All we need to do is just score a few more goals and have a bit more luck in front of goal. Or actually, is there a bit more to it than that?
Yeah, there's definitely more to it than that. And again, I try to steer clear of these sort of arguments where, not arguments, but discussions where
they're made up. Don't worry, they're all good
it's
now.
One or the other. Yeah. Yeah, it's one or the other. We either need to score more goals, we need to concede more goals, but it's definitely one or the other. When in reality, it's a blend of everything. Of course, a lot of things are a blend of everything. But I was actually having, Mick Chappell, don't you, at the club, associated with us, speaking to him after the game, and he sort of said the same thing. Or, the amount of times their goalkeeper was just in the right place and we just hit shots straight at the keeper, we hit the keeper, go yard either. And I'm saying, you're dead right. And we both said, can you imagine Lee Hughes in that team last night with that service? can you imagine? He had an unbelievable knack, like all good goal scorers do, of not hitting the goalkeeper, finding the bottom corner or the top corner, putting it in the back of the net. It doesn't have to be a 25-yarder worldie. It doesn't have to be beat 6 men and bend one in the far top corner and score the perfect Instagram goal as it is. There is an unbelievable skill, and it is a skill to find the corner of the goal. Gary Lineker's probably as good a name as you could roll off the top of your tongue in terms of scoring scruffy goals. It's the hat-trick he gets against Real Madrid, isn't it, for Barcelona? It's combined distance of about 6 yards for all three of them. But, there is an unbelievable knack of being in the right place at the right time and then having the composure and the wherewithal. Composure is the word Ian Birchnell used last night, I think, in his post-match. Having the composure and the ability to be under pressure, which you generally are in the opponent's box, and find the corners, find the bottom corner, find where the goalkeeper isn't, find yourself where the defenders aren't. And a lot of the time, for all the balls into the box that Notts have at the minute, and we're not doing bad in terms of goal scoring. We score goals, but for the amount of chances and good openings that we create, I just, like I say, and I know Lee Hughes don't grow on trees. That they're going to cost you a fair amount of money if you were going to find one. But you just think that Notts are a team that create that many sort of openings, have that much of the ball, get in the opponent's box that many times, that with a Lee Hughes type of player, let's say a real out-and-out goal scorer, you fancy somebody in this Notts team, and it might well be Kyle Wootton, who's done exceptionally well, but somebody in this Notts team this season could and arguably should be pushing towards high 20s in terms of goals, because we've had that much of the ball, that much of the ball in the penalty areas in decent positions, and I'm hoping it will happen. I'm hoping it will happen still, but I just there is a skill. It's not just luck. It's not just about there is a random element to football and any game, but and the reason why I think Notts, the way they play is excellent, is because, to go back to the original question about style of play over winning, basically, and again, the two aren't mutually exclusive or they're correlating. You can't just throw players onto a pitch and go and win a game. They will do if you've got good enough players. Occasionally, they'll win a game by themselves without any sort of game plan, because that's just how it can happen. But if you've got a game plan, if you've got a style of play and a pattern that everybody knows, you give yourself a better chance to win more games. And that's what Notts have got. But the frustration is coming from the fact that they aren't winning the percentage of games that they put themselves in pole position to win. And again, last night is an absolute prime example.
Kyle Wootton, 50 goals, 110 appearances, whatever. Consistently, that is an exceptional level of goals return, even allowing for the fact we now find ourselves in the National League, having historically been in the Football League for all the previous years. But the setup that we have, and to an extent it was largely the same under Neil Ardley, we play with one striker. Now, there's a lot of talent coming through, the 4-2-3-1, all that sort of thing. Where are you as a striker, with having only one striker as a fulcrum? Do you think that in any way has a part to play in us not converting as many of the chances that we're creating as we perhaps should be?
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from, and I would, yes and no. In terms, I've got no problem with just playing one central striker between usually two central defenders, difficult to mark, because we've got players, and I'm talking Cal, Ruben, and now Eli. We've got players that aren't out and out centre forwards. They don't want to go and play up against generally big centre halves that you get in this division. They are better in the sort of positions we get them in. They like to play off strikers. Yes, they go in behind at times, but they like to play off the strikers, off the main, away from the main defenders. And And that's exactly right. We aren't playing two up front. If Cairo Mitchell plays, for example, then
Yes.
there's an argument to go, well, we'll play Kyle and Cairo. There's two strikers. But do we become as potent with that? Maybe, maybe not. They've not had too much of a go together. What I would say is a slightly sounds ridiculous talking about a limiting factor, and I'm talking very, very small margins when we're talking this, because again, not scored 50 goals in the league, haven't they, in the 27 games? So it's a decent goal scoring ratio. But I have been critical at times on the radio of, with the balls that get put in, it's in Cow's nature, it's in Ruben's nature, Eli to an extent nature, to all play sort of on the edge of the penalty area looking for the second balls. And you see ball whipping across the 6-yard box. I'm salivating last night looking at someone like, say, Adam Chickson. I'm absolutely going, you put me out there, Lee. I can't run around, but I'll stand in the 6-yard box and feed on them. Lee Hughes, would be absolutely loving it. But what I do think we don't have, by having them good players who can beat men and receive the ball and cause things, create things, get into their pockets of space, as we call them, we do miss out at times on players killing themselves to get into the penalty area, get in the 6-yard box. And I just think that is something that maybe is a slightly limiting factor. But again, we're not a million miles away from 2 goals a game in the league. So it's a marginal call. It's a marginal call, but I think that's something that them players have maybe got to take on a little bit, knowing when to go in the 6-yard box and when to just ring the penalty out. They do it pretty well. They do it pretty well so far, but you're always just looking for that extra 1 or 2%.
Adi Clark, agree with Stell. Not a lack of a clinical striker will yet again be our downfall. I was at Chesterfield v Wrexham last night. They badly missed Shimanga. Should have won with the amount of chances they had. Wrexham's Palmer scores 2, and there, of course, is kind of an instant return on. That's why you spend the big bucks, isn't it? We've had a bit of a comparison. Chris Gosling has likened us to Manchester City, and they don't play with a proper number 9. That sparked a bit of debate, as you might imagine. Calvin Hallam says, just go and buy Alex Reid from Stockport. More of a realistic target money-wise, and he is a handful in the box. Gary Wardle, exactly, Stell. Kell has to put them in. Ruben waiting to do something special, and Woods is a target man. I think as our flock are saying, still, I think you've got the nail on the head. When we get the ball and we get to the byline and we pull those balls across, it does seem a disproportionate amount of time that opposition defenders are there first. And like you say, that's where the archetypal fox in the box ordinarily would be, wouldn't he? But we kind of have players edge of the box, like you say, waiting for the ball to come back out or whatever. And I think that's a possible source of frustration. And I guess the follow-up to that, but maybe we don't have the personnel, for you to be more clinical, is there a recruitment issue? I.e., do we have that kind of striker? Or B, would you contemplate, in the way that Ian has moved to a flat back 4 more recently, would you countenance looking at 2 up top?
I'd be loath to change it. I honestly would be loath to change it based on the performances. I think what we're talking about, and believe me, this is small margins. It always, unless there's something glaringly obvious in football, you're talking very small margins. So the formation we've got at the minute, I think Cal has come into his own since the Kings Lynn hat-trick.
Agreed.
I think we found that role for him on the right-hand side. Him and Jaden Richardson have been absolute dynamite down the right-hand side, certainly in the last couple of games at least. And what a threat they can be. So I wouldn't want to tinker with that. I think Ruben arguably could play a bit further up, but he likes to go and have a little drift and drop into midfield at times. we need to find a way of getting him in the game more. I think Ruben's a player that needs the ball a lot, and Eli's done well on the left-hand side. So I wouldn't want to change that. I really wouldn't want to change that. And then you go the other end of the pitch and go, well, we've got a new goalkeeper in who's been in the last 3 games. Been in for 3 games, whatever it was, and we've not seen him whether he's any good because he's not a save to make. So things aren't going too badly at that end of the pitch either. What we're talking about is can Ruben, let's say, for argument's sake, he plays the central of them 3 behind Kyle. Can he and Eli, like I said, when the ball's on the right-hand side and it's Cal and Jayden Richardson doing their overlap, their underlap, whichever way they're going to go, if it's Cal coming back on his left foot, putting the in-swinger in, which he scored from at the weekend, nobody gets a touch. But can we make sure that we get bodies in the box, whether it's Eli, Kyle, and Ruben, getting into the 6-yard box or the front post, back post, penalty spot kind of routine? Can they take that on themselves and realise, again, decision making? When's the ball coming in? When do I time my run? Where do I go? Where's the space? Where's the ball likely to go? It's really fine margins. But I think there was a stat really early on in the season. Was it something like Notts had the most entries into? I mean, this was a stat Ian Birchnell came out with. Notts had the most entries into the opposition penalty area at the National League. And you're going, well, we're not the top scorers, so something isn't quite clicking into top gear there. Now, whether that's still the same now, I don't know. This was a good probably 10, 12 games ago at least. But you want that correlation of we get the ball into such good areas so often because we've got such a good, well-rehearsed pattern of play that we should still score more goals than we do. And part of that, a large part of that, for me, comes down to individuals rather than any tactical now, so anything you can tweak. It comes down to individuals spotting things in game. And again, the great goal scorers, really good goal scorers, they knew where to be. They just had that innate sense of being in the right place at the right time. It isn't just luck, it's an innate sense, it's an ability to see what's going around you, match awareness, vision, whatever you want to call it, spatial awareness as much as anything, and getting yourself in a 6-yard box or a penalty area that's quite crowded, but giving yourself the time, the room, and the space, and then having the ability to execute when the ball comes and you've got a split second to find the corner, not straight at the goalkeeper or a yard wide of the post or over the bar. Of course, everybody misses chances, but the better strikers find themselves with the ball at their feet or their head in the 6-yard box in the penalty area more often than those that don't quite time the run or don't really judge what's going on quite so well. They're in there, but the ball never seems to drop to them, and sort of doesn't seem to drop to them too much. And you're thinking, why is that? That's just bad luck. It's not just bad luck. It can be bad luck. A lot of it is, just one of them things. You might have to make 10 runs to get the ball once or twice, but that's how football is. But if you do the right thing more often, you'll get, more good rewards from it. Gary Player says that the more I practice, the luckier I get, and all that sort of thing. It's not luck. It isn't luck. It's doing the right thing time and time and time again, and you get your rewards from it eventually.
Shout out to Shaman Talk, the Halifax Town podcast. He was there last night. We are set up now. Barnet and Weymouth after a point against Notts. 2 very winnable games. If you don't beat Barnet, crikey. Well, I suppose it depends what Barnet turns up. But we could be second in the league and 4 points behind Stockport come mid-March. Just shows you how these fine dividing lines make for a difference in kind of optimistic or negative approach. Mark Davidson says, we're speaking to some of the Halifax Centre, the navigation before the game, Shayman. A lot of good banter and a great set of lads. Good luck for the rest of the season. There's something else I want to talk about, because this has been raised, and apologies for not reading everything out tonight because there's tons of it. A few fans, clearly we are data driven, statistically driven. Some fans talk about mental strength, mental fortitude. And I think everybody would accept the style of football that we play is pleasing on the eye, is entertaining. I think you could say with 99% confidence, we will always have the majority of possession in a game, complete more passes than the opposition, all of those kinds of metrics. Do we do the scruffy stuff enough? I think one of the most revealing and telling post-match interviews that I would have come across at any point this season was after the Grimsby defeat, if you remember, with Kyle Cameron still.
Mm.
And Kyle said, and he was very honest and clearly very deflated, but he said, we need to be more streetwise. We don't keep enough clean sheets. We need to be more ruthless defending set pieces, which was quite a candid admission. Where and teams that you've played in, where does mental strength fit in to these equations of winning teams? Because clearly Notts tick an awful lot of the building blocks to be a championship winning team. But we are 8th, yeah, and we haven't been in the playoffs for several weeks.
Yeah, mental strength, massive. I mean, it's difficult to quantify. In fact, it's nigh on impossible to quantify.
Which is why there's no data for it. Yeah,
exactly.
We try and produce data for everything else, but these are sorts of unquantifiables, but I think are very important.
Yeah, but it is massively important, certainly in professional sport, professional football. The cauldron that every game is, when you've got thousands of people watching, freely giving you their opinion to your face, immediately. You've got to have a certain amount of mental strength just to make it in the game. That's got to be part of your makeup as a player. Mental strength. Clearly, some players will have more, a little bit water off a duck's back, anything. Other players will be a little bit more insecure, a little bit, self-doubting or what have you. But for a team, I think mental strength, it's a difficult one, because you can't go, oh, well, we conceded that goal against Grimsby because we haven't got enough mental strength. We conceded that goal because quite clearly the setup wasn't right, or somebody lost their marker. You can analyze every goal, but mental strength is an unquantifiable part of every player's makeup, and therefore combines to make a part of a team's makeup. And the more you have of it, in terms of when a game's going badly, when you're not on your A game, when passes are going astray, when the crowd's getting on your back a little bit, or the crowd's quiet, or the opponents are really having a good spell, or the opponents are on a really bad spell, it's having mental strength to not get flustered, to make the right decisions, to not get carried away with whatever occasion or whatever circumstance are in front of you. It's sticking to the game plan despite what's going on around you. It's that sort of thing. It's not being frenetic when it's exciting, when things have happened, when the game's a bit end-to-end. Last night the game got stretched for a bit. It was ridiculous, and then it sort of players, the sort of adrenaline, if you like, just cools a little bit, and everyone gets back to a little bit more, this is how we're supposed to play, this is the shape that we're supposed to be playing in. But you see it all the time, less so the higher up the game you go, because they become used to the occasions and used to the pressure, and obviously that mental stress that it brings.
Go back into your memory banks when you were playing. Who would you say, or there might be a few, who were the toughest, mentally most resilient, scary, awe-inspiring, the kind of thing, players that you played with and against?
Crikey me, now you are talking. And now the obvious thing is to go for some big name players, isn't it? Obviously, because just name dropping, but I'm not going to do that. There were. It tends to be believe it or not, it tends to be, I find, your strikers and your more creative players were slightly more up and down in
Right.
terms of when things are going well. We all say you should stay on a level, of course, but it is nature. You get pressure heaped on you when you've not scored for a few games, and you're absolutely buzzing when you've scored 5 in 5 or whatever it might be. So by the very nature of that, it was more. I'm trying to think of players. I mean, obviously, I played with like Craig Short and that at Derby. Obviously, Notts fans will know Yatesy, and Tommy Johnson, and different mentalities, just different mentality. But the two centre halves you would say, yeah, mental strength, absolutely. You just never changed, never, got on with it. No fuss, no dramas whatsoever. Tommy, Geordie lad, as you'll know, a little bit more up and down, lively as anything. Great lad. But I'm sure he might tell you that maybe sometimes when he was on a quieter spell, he might have been a little bit different. But George Williams was another one at Derby, senior pro at the time when I was a young lad coming through, Welsh international, but just steady as a rock, just nothing ruffled him, got stuck in on a pitch, could pass the ball, did simple things, but mentally, just great. And I think I'd have to go back to being a youngster, and because I think that's when you really appreciate mental strength, when you look at senior players and go, well, what is it? His legs are going, or he don't run around too much. And you realise that they've got 300, 400 appearances under their belt because they can hack it. They can hack it. They've got the ability, but they can hack playing in front of crowds week in, week out. They can hack being in form, being out of form, every up and down and everything that football throws at you. So it's really difficult, but it is part of your arsenal. You've got to have a good character, really.
When you were at Notts, who was the leader? Who did people bounce off the most, or who were the leaders in the dressing room?
There was quite a few. I think there's your steady Eddie types in terms of when I first went there. You talk Ian Hendon, Sean Farrell. So again, more senior players though. Wardy was there. He was quite a steady sort of character, but confident and good ability, which always helps. Rico as well, quieter, but went about it in the right way. There were some good characters, good, strong characters, and everybody's slightly different. And this is what you get in a dressing room. And anybody who's done anything collectively, whether it's a five-a-side team, a pub team, a golf society, a workplace, anybody who's been in a room of men, women, a group of people will know that it takes all sorts of characters. It's like a jigsaw piece falling together. And sometimes it clicks and it seems like a great room. And other times you can't put your finger on why, but it just doesn't gel. There might be a bit of a rift between one or two and some others, and you just don't have it. But it's, again, that's not so much mental strength as personality and character, but they're all similar sort of aspects of the game, the mental side of the game.
I mean, it leads on to the obvious question. Carl Cameron is the captain, and I think will be seen and recognised as a leader. Have we got enough leaders out on the pitch at the moment in this group of players?
I'll be honest, Paul, that's something that's been levelled at teams for about the last 15 years because, and your automatic answer is no, because you don't see people shouting and screaming.
And I get
like
the game has moved on from what would almost be classed as bullying, wouldn't it? In your day, it would be bullying, it would be intimidation, and society's changed a bit.
Exactly. I mean, you think back to Notts player, Kilclines and all them sort of thing. Real proper Don Masson and that, not standing for anything. I think days of that have gone. That they have gone. They were changing during my career, and I speak to players now, and it's gone in terms of that. What I think Notts have got in terms of leadership, I think they've got, rather than ballers and screamers, I think they've got players who accept the truth, are honest with each other as a group when they don't perform or don't reach certain standards. They seem like a fairly honest bunch that aren't looking for excuses, that aren't hiding away, that are, looking after each other when things aren't going, when so and so's maybe getting a bit of stick or whatever, they rally round. I think as a group, I think they seem from the outside looking in, they seem like a good group, a real good group together. Again, yes, of course, we'd all like to see, but just by somebody's been on the pitch shouting and pointing, and don't necessarily mean the shouting and pointing the right thing. I played with players that did plenty of shouting, but you didn't listen to them because they were talking rubbish half the time. Half of it's for the crowd for effect, and half of it's for the manager to say, "Look at me, I'm shouting and screaming. I really care." So it can be a bit of a bluff. The sort of shouting and screaming. Where you need leaders, more to the point, is in the dressing room, to make sure that you don't get the factions, that you don't get the bad eggs, if you like, and you don't get the little splits, and you don't get lads that when they're not in the team, they're not training properly and disrupting it and just being a little bit disruptive like that, which happens plenty in football. Then your characters and your leaders will have a word or sort it out or do something about it. That is, and obviously you need different sort of leaders, and you need everybody to be together on a pitch, So, but I see that. I don't see that as an issue really in terms of you look at other teams and go, "Wait, I've not noticed any other teams out shouting and screaming and looking like they've got more leaders than us." I don't think that's a major criticism of the team at all. I think they are a good dressing room.
Adam Wright says, great coverage again last night. Stel, you and Charlie sounded up for it. Great show as always, Paul, you pies. Thank you to Adam. Gary Wardle, I think we rely on talent rather than leaders. Mark Wilde, I think the fans did their bit last night. Ian Birchnell, the head coach, did specifically mention the fans for sticking with him. Chris Gosling, Mark, I agree. I thought our backing of the team was superb. Ian Birchnell, agree, Mark. Thought fans gave it all to try and give players the support needed. Chris Gosling, more vocal and supportive at 1-0 down than when winning previous games. Gary Wardle, if they are talented technically and all together, then we should be miles better. Mark Weiler, the roof would have come off if we got it to 2-1. Okay, so we're near the end of the show. So on to Woking. 2 away games, 4 days, Chesterfield on the Tuesday. Our home form, I think, is either the best or second best in the division. So irrespective of last night, we've knocked teams over and are displaying a level of form at home that is equitable to winning the league. So you don't need to be a brain surgeon to know that it is our away form that is largely responsible for us not being 3 points adrift to Stockport at the minute, but being on the edge of the playoffs. What would you like to see, obviously other than a win, Stel, but are there any tweaks, or what would you like to see at Woking on Saturday?
It's difficult to categorise again. I would say Notts as a team, and it is a strange, I say strange anomaly. Teams are generally better at home than they are away, or have better records at home than they do away. That goes throughout sort of time with football. But the way Notts play, and the way we set up, and the way we are, you would almost look at them and go, "We are a perfect away from home team." Because we've got good individual players, and when the home team comes onto us, takes the game to us a little bit more than they would do maybe coming to Meadow Lane, you would think that would fit absolutely perfectly, creates a few more gaps, they take a few more risks, and therefore there's more space for us to exploit. I don't know why that isn't the case. I've got to be absolutely honest. Maybe there's a little bit of a belief issue in that. I don't know. And again, only small margins, but we won 10 at home, 4 away. Is that right? Something like that. Yeah, obviously it's difficult. You're going against the home crowd and things like that, and unfamiliar surroundings that can play its part. Traveling, there's a fair amount of traveling to be done in this division, but they're minor excuses, really. I wouldn't really, put too much emphasis on them. I honestly don't know, other than saying I would love us to sort of believe, to go into the away games just like the home games. It's so easy to say and not so easy to do, but go and get on the front foot right from the get-go. Sometimes I feel as if we're maybe waiting to see how the game goes rather than really dictating the pace. We're Notts County, we're the best team in this division, and we're going to come and beat you at your place. And sometimes I wonder whether we go in with that real belief. Might say it, might think it, but that real belief. I know Woking did us 4-1 at home earlier on in the season.
I didn't want to bring that up,
but you are not telling me that Woking are a better team than Notts. You're not telling me, and I've said it all season, so I'm not changing my tune, but there is nobody in this division that Notts should fear, despite the money that's been spent by other clubs. I still wouldn't fear. We beat Stockport at home. I have no qualms that we could go and, if we play well, we go and beat them at their place, despite the run of form that they're in at this moment in time. Chesterfield the same, Wrexham the same, Boreham Wood the same. Absolutely no qualms about it. I just wonder if there's maybe an element of really, truly believing that away from home, hey lads, come on, first 30 minutes, we get right at them, get banged into them early doors, get our passing going, we'll be 2 or 3 up, and the game's put to bed in the first half hour. I just wonder if there's really, really that genuine belief that they can do that. Because honestly, some of the football they play is that good that that's what they should be doing to teams. And for all the reasons we spoke about in the last hour, they haven't done quite enough. But away from home, that's what I'd like to see. Just a real positive mentality that we're going to win this and there's nothing you can do to stop us.
Yes, it's a good point you make there about we absolutely should not be having an inferiority complex against anyone. I've seen some messages and thoughts from some fans where it was always going to be a ridiculously hard season. We can't compete with the likes of Wrexham and Stockport because they've spent a load of money. What a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish. You can always make excuses. Didn't stop Sutton going up, did it? Didn't stop Barrow going up. And, like you sometimes think, although we threaten to take a game by the scruff of the neck, we don't always get that 2-goal cushion, do we? You can think back to Bromley away, where clearly we looked a better team, or territorially we were stronger. They were throwing bodies on the line for the first 30 minutes of the game, but we didn't score, did we? And they get the set piece, and then it's. But there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be getting. I don't know, and this is where I kind of asked a question earlier about the mental strength and the resilience of us, because there's no way we should be going in at half-time at Bromley, for instance, 1-0 down.
Absolutely, and therein lies the nub of where the problem has been this season. There's been so many good halves, good bits of play, good performances that haven't led to the goals that scored that we should have done, and also conceding against Bromley. Okay, you play well, you don't score, that can happen, but you nearly swore that, sure as heck don't allow the opposition to nick one before half time. You don't go in 1 down when you've dominated a half like we did at Bromley. But there's been other examples, and again, the Woking game, the second half, the last whatever it was, last 30 minutes or wherever the goals all came, just the game should have been out of sight. There's been too many times like that. Sorry, my watch is answering for me. There's been too many examples of that this season, whereby, and again, for all the reasons we spoke about, performance levels have been up there, but returns have been just below it. and we haven't got the returns in terms of points that the performances maybe you could argue deserve. But then the other side of the coin is, well, you get what you deserve, and we're eighth in the table, and we need to pick up points because we're below the points per game that's required to get promoted and or playoffs.
I'll try and finish on a positive. I understand everything, and look, deep down, I agree with you about top spot being an incredibly tall order. But if you look, say, a couple of weeks ago with Stockport, we've not maximised our games in hand. Chesterfield now seem to be going through that blip. It is amazing how the picture of that table in the top 8, 9 can change remarkably quickly from 1 week to the next. And effectively, it's now 2 games a week, isn't it, for 4 or 5 weeks now? So I don't think it is beyond the realms that we can have a run and have a stab at threatening the top spot. Yeah. And clearly you'd have to win at Stockport and all of those things. But for me, and I've said this before, and I know you speak about 10-game runs, we've got to go. I think the most we've done this season, I don't count cup games and all the rest of it, the most we've done is 4 straight wins. 4 straight wins in the league, 12 points out of 12. If we can get 7 or 8 on the bounce, I'd have a wager that puts us pretty adjacent to Stockport. Now, the big if, of course, is getting the 7 or 8.
Yeah.
But you look with what we've got, then I think we're capable of doing that. But for whatever reason, we have 3 or 4, then we slip back for 2. And that's what kills us. That's what kills us. But I think there's enough for us to win 7 or 8 on the spin. Whether we can is another matter.
I absolutely agree. I'd absolutely agree with you, Paul. And again, what you're describing there is the lack of consistency in this division, and when you get players at certain levels, that consistency level that we speak about again, there is nothing stopping ridiculous Notts winning every game between now and the end of the season, because they've got the ability to do it. But probability tells you that, well, that's not likely to happen, is it? Because it just doesn't. And stats tell you that doesn't happen but there is nothing, when you look at it game by game, there is not a game that Notts can't win, home or away, against anybody, no matter how much money they've spent in this division this season. Notts have got the ability, but it involves them turning up, playing well, that we know they can do, which they do quite regularly, but being ruthless in both penalty areas. And that is the $64 million sort of question mark, is, can they do that? Can they be ruthless enough in both penalty areas for 17 more games this season? And if they do, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we give whoever it's going to be. It looks like Stockport at the minute, but it can change, as you say, that we are right up there in the mix. But we're playing catch up. We are playing catch up, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think we are. There's too many teams between us and the actual top spot, and there's too many good teams with good players for them all to fall off a cliff. But I absolutely hope I'm wrong. But again, it needs not to have an insane run between now and the end of the season, I think.
Yeah, but and I think this is the frustration, certainly for me, and I'm sure for other fans, is that achieving that run can be done extremely quickly. Sometimes there's, the manager needs to have 2 full seasons. The owner needs to do this. We need to gradually build. We need to have 4 transfer windows, right? The sun's got to be shining. We're going to have no postponements, no COVID, and then we can gradually build. I'll give you a stat. Dave Challoner goes in at Stockport. Didn't start the season there. Start the season having got another team promoted. Won 12 out of 15 games. He's not had a pre-season. He's not been able to sign 12 players, right? He's delivered something in a highly pressurized environment, and that just for me is a slight frustration. That shows it can be done. And you don't need everything to have been perfect, and you don't need 2 years to do it. You know, whatever he's done and identified at Stockport, he's not spent 2 million quid. He's not had 6-week pre-season training program. Not spent ages with the players. He's gone in and hit the ground running. And I think that is indicative that you can turn things around and get success very quickly with the right formula.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, you can. I mean, make no mistake, he had some good players that were already bought before he got there. He
The
wouldn't have
previous
took the
manager
job.
was making up right horrocks.
Oh yeah. But he wouldn't have took the job if he didn't think he could get a tune out of them players. And amazingly, when we turned them over at our place, what, a couple of months ago, is it? I looked at them and thought they're nothing compared to how I expected them to be. And he's gone in there and he's shook them up a little bit, done whatever he's done, and he's getting a tune out of good players. Look, the other side of the coin is, you could say, Chesterfield. I mean, Paul Cook's got in there and he lost 2 from 2 with a team that was top of the table. So look, that can happen in football. But Dave Challoner, I mean, you get some managers who've just got it, and their record is a fantastic one. And Dave Challoner seems to be one of them that wherever he goes, he makes things happen. You know, took Hartlepool out of the division last season, and may very well do the same with Stockport this season. So, you know, that'd be a fantastic thing to have on his CV. So, yeah, he's done a great job. It's not, look, there's no one size fits all with anything, is there? There's no guarantees in football. That's the reason why we can talk for hours on this. We can, you know, talk in a bar and pubs, and you know, people talk about it. There's a million things online. You know, people are constantly talking about football because it's just so unpredictable. It's amazing. It's an unbelievable game, and games like last night. You know, somebody who said, "Well, we sounded up for it." It's the game that makes us sound excited, because it was just unbelievable atmosphere. The fans were brilliant. You know, the fans were brilliant. The ref was rubbish. I think he's got off scot-free tonight. He was terrible.
I was going to bring him up, actually. Yeah.
Oh dear me, he was terrible. And I don't like blaming referees. It's a tough job and all that sort of gubbins, but he was awful last night. So, you know, look, we're going to have one hell of a season, or running to the end of the season, 17 league games. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that we push the top team, whoever that will be, all the way. We're not far away. I absolutely think we'll make the playoffs without a shadow of a doubt. I hope we go better than that. But as long as we get promoted, I don't care how we do it.
On that note, that kind of answers my first sentence, doesn't it? Level of performance, style, entertainment, or results. You've answered it after 1 hour, 17 minutes and 58 seconds. Quick rallying call for my lad. 28 miles, hopefully. It might be a lot more than that, for his walk in aid of Lifeline, in memory of Colin Slater. Colin, of course, played a key part in launching Lifeline, initiative that's raised, I think, over £1 million for Notts County since then. That's a lot of money. So if you would like to donate £5 or more, you will automatically go into a draw to win one of our Magpie Circle player sponsorship places to watch Ian train the lads and have a question and answer session. There's a couple of those sessions in March and April. So £5 or more, and you will automatically be entered into that draw. The link is on the page in front of you, or just Google Just Giving. Thank you very much indeed. Stel, top man, as always. We had a little glitch earlier, didn't we?
Yeah, first time.
I don't know what happened there, but thank you very much indeed. Off to Woking we will go. I shall hopefully be having a chat with my good friend Martin Tyler. Weird, isn't it? Martin Tyler is assistant manager for Woking. Bizarre, eh?
Yeah, well, I'd say
you get Stel. You might get called in.
Oh, you're joking. Thanks. No, I'm going grey enough as it is, I think. So, yeah, like I say, it'd be a tough game, obviously, and of course, Ini Effiong, who looked like he couldn't hit a barn door when he was in Notts shirt, is scoring goals at the minute. So, yeah, got another one last night, didn't he? So hopefully that's him done for a bit. But you say, got to go there expecting 3 points. I expect him to get it, and I'm sure they will.
Yeah. I hope I'm wrong or semi-wrong. I have an awful feeling that we will definitely win at Chesterfield and might only draw at Woking. I think we may be hitting Chesterfield exactly the right time. I kind of fancy us. I just think Woking, little bit of a banana skin. I don't know. But we'll see, eh?
We'll see. But I'll go for 2 wins just to be slightly more optimistic.
Exactly. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you to everyone for listening and watching. We will be back next Monday, post a Woking victory, hopefully, and previewing Chesterfield. Take care for now. Thank you, everyone. Good night.